Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Markets to Watch from Smack the Markets for week commencing the 30th of March. So another week in these unprecedented times, and for sure we're likely to see huge amounts of volatility going through the financial markets as well by the end of the week. But then having said that, this week I think is going to be a little bit more of a important decision maker. There's been a lot that's taken place in the past week. We've had those huge stimulus bills that have gone through. Those plans are now sort of in place. We've had countries locking down and economies sort of grinding to a halt. Those things have all sort of come into place for many locations last week. This week, the traders have had times to think about how to digest that, how this sort of stimulus and sort of low growth is going to impact on these markets for the longer term. Also coming forward, of course, into this week, at the end of the week, we've got non-farm payrolls, which is normally one of the biggest market moving bits of news during the month. Now, of course, that's in the old world. Is it going to have much of an impact in the new world? But I think is debatable. But I think traders will be focused very much on those numbers as usual. So let's have a look at a few markets here that we're keeping a close eye on in the trading room going forward into the beginning of this week. Now, if we take a look at the Dow, first of all, these markets have been hugely volatile in both directions over the past few weeks, as we've seen. At the moment, though, the market here is approaching what I think is sort of a fairly important sort of decision level, maybe for the next sort of day or two at least. And I say that because these markets move now as much during a day as they would normally move within the context of a week in the old times. And things can change very, very quickly on these markets. So we very much look at intraday moves on here, and you can see that the market at the moment, last week we had a very strong move here on the Dow. The market sort of pulled back into this pulled back in and opened up lower on the Sunday evening open. Now the market's moved higher, but it's also sort of coming down to test quite important levels. This 21,120 area is a level that the market really established during its high volatility period, where the market was up and down 1,000 pips a day. You can see this sort of coming back. You can see 21,120 was kind of the area where price found support through here. It found resistance a number of times. It was also respected around here as well, and it was an area where the market ran to, and then there was a key decision made there as to whether the market was going to get above that level or not. Now, interestingly, today the market has declined back into that level and bounced off it, as we can see. So I think this is going to be quite a key decision point in the early part of this week. In other words, is the market going to find support here? If it does, then we could be seeing this an attempt here to close this trading window that the market's in at the moment. That gives us a run up here to around that sort of 23,300 area. Now, if 21,120 can't hold, then we could be seeing a decline here into this deeper trading window, which brings it back into around that sort of 20 area. So I think this is the sort of decision point which is likely to sort of be tested a few times this week. Overall, of course, the outlook of news is not particularly wonderful. It's hard to see that there's going to be many good news for stocks. So I think the pressure is still going to be to the short side for this market. The only sort of question is when. So if we come and take a look at commodities now, one of the commodities that is moving a little bit more freely than gold at the moment is silver. And this market here is got a bit more sort of interesting structure to it compared to the likes of gold. Now, if we take a look at this on the weekly chart, we can see that there's a bit of a sort of level in here from the weekly perspective, around that sort of 14 sort of 1460, 1450 sort of area. There's certainly sort of previous resistance here, or previous support, which is going to become sort of resistance at this moment in time. The market's underneath that at the moment, and of course in the context of this huge move, we might be expecting a bit more of a sell-off here, a bit more of weakening of prices. You can see that this on the daily time frame, that the market is rejecting off this sort of area and declining at the moment. And again, come down to the lower time frames here, we could see that the market's already started to break as it's consolidated here underneath that 1500 level. It's sort of broken down, and we're starting to get a little bit of retracement here. So again, if this market sort of holds underneath these sort of levels, again, we're looking for potential sort of opportunities for silver to weaken off, and possibly down here towards that sort of 13,200 area. There's a bit of support and resistance here in the past. In between that, there's not a lot of support and resistance, as we can see. Now, of course, going above price, that 1500 area, a breakthrough here would represent significant strength. And in which case from here, we might sort of start to look more towards the bullish side and look for maybe a retest up there towards that 1650. If we come to currency markets now, the market that is looking sort of quite interesting this morning here is dollar yen. Now, at the moment here, we've got strength in the dollar. We've got significant strength in the yen as well at the moment. Which one is going to play out? I think the yen, even if the dollar continues to hold strong against many of its trading pairs, I think that the yen is still going to maintain as being one of the sort of strongest markets at the moment, and that's going to help this market to move to the short side here. Now, dollar yen, again, if we look at this on the weekly chart, it's nicely underneath that key 108 level, and coming up to these higher time frames, you can see how significant 108 is for this market. Now, recently, as we can see, last week the market smashed through 108. This week we're just retesting it and just sort of sitting underneath it at the moment. It looks poised for a retest down here towards that sort of 106 area. If we come down the time frames and start to take a look at this on the 4-hour time frame, you can already see that we've got very well established trends to the short side here. We can see the rejection of 108 already. A break below these levels sees us into that move down to 106. So we're certainly looking in the trading room for opportunities to participate in this market as long as this trend continues to the short side. So there's a few markets there that we're keeping a close eye on in the trading room going into the beginning of this week. I certainly hope it helps, and look forward to speaking to you next time. Bye for now.